Hi, everybody, and welcome. We are joining round 8 of the first Caplin Menchik Memorial Tournament, which is being held in the Mind Sports Centre in London. A great opportunity for women players to get norms. Let's have a look at the game. I'm joined by a national instructor, Matt Ball.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me, Natasha.
Okay, and we have, there's 4 games going on today, so let's have a look what we've got. So we've got Lanyao against Kamila Frishenko. We've got Harriet Hunt against Ketty Arakamir Grant. We have Taya Vidic against Lara Schultz. And we have Kubova against Voraskoska. Okay, and so shall we pop in first to, I guess, the big game of the day, Lanyao against Camilla. And Camilla's been having an absolutely amazing tournament. She's already, with still a couple of rounds to spare, got her WIM norm. Looking at the computer analysis I just saw then, maybe this one's not going for so well, but let's have a look at how this is going. Okay, so should we start from the beginning, Matt?
So, yes, so we get a modern structure with g6 and bishop g7, and many ways for black to go here. Are we going to go Pierce or something else? And then we see this a6 move, which is typical of a line called Tiger's Modern, named after affable Swedish grandmaster and Tiger Hillap Persson. And his idea is that you should play b5 as black, having got pawn to a6 to support it, and then fianchetto with your bishop to b7, often with the pawn trying to get to b4 to knock that c3 knight away.
As and once that knight goes, this pawn can be on prise.
Yes, to your bishop that's now on b7. So that's the idea. So often here, the kind of latest book move would have you play a4 as white in order to stop b5. And then, depending what black wants to do, they may have to go into a hippo structure. So they'll play b6 rather than b5 and fianchetto, have a slightly more passive position. But we don't go down that line. In fact, to start with, at least, we go bishop e3. So that's just bolstering the protection of the d pawn. Perhaps overprotecting it 3 times. I'm sure Aaron Nimzovich would be thrilled. And then we have h3. So we're probably trying to stop that bishop coming out and pinning the knight.
Excuse me.
And castles. So we get a couple of developing moves, black castles, bishop e2. And then we get b5. So we've kind of gone into the Tigers one. If you like, as white, we had a number of opportunities to play a4 if we wanted to. We've decided we can see it coming, and we're just going to let it. We're going to let it go because white has a different plan. So black's playing down a flank, so white's going to do something in the middle. And so now we have e5.
E5 here.
The bane of the Pirt's defense player. So. And that's slightly annoying because it's obviously hitting the knight, and black has to do something. So she moves the knight.
Yeah, now I guess black has a choice of where to put this knight, because you could put it on e8, d7, or h5. Although h5 is not going to be very good, because already that knight doesn't have any squares, so kind of g4 is already a problem for black.
Yes, that would be uncomfortable. e8 can be played. It's getting in the way a bit of some of the other stuff on the back rank. But knight fd7 is kind of what you might expect. And then white has this rather smart move, e6.
Yeah. Okay.
So
and
again,
e6. Now this is a this move is like gives up a pawn, but is very annoying for black, I would say. Just kind of prizing open the king side if black takes it.
Yes. So, I mean, she could move the knight, but we've moved the knight enough times, and she decides the best thing to do is to grab that pawn.
So
I
black
mean, you could put
takes.
your knight. You could put your knight back to f6 and feel like you've got some harmony, but you do have this thorn in your defense.
It's true, right?
And
So say you go knight f6, but then I guess white could take on f7, rook
yep,
takes, and then you've got things like what knight g5, and the
yeah,
king's a bit loose.
some light squared weaknesses in black's defense there.
Yeah. So Camilla instead took this pawn, and now Lanyao is going all out here with
So
the move
with
h4.
Harry, now she could have played knight g5 there.
She could. She could have gone knight g5.
She could have gone knight g5, and that could have led to quite an interesting line. So that's threatening the. Can you put that on the board as a variation?
I can. Let me do that. So there we go.
So now she's threatening the e pawn. Computer doesn't fancy it too much, but that's okay. So maybe you play knight b6, and that would just, let's just say, and that would protect your e pawn with the bishop. But the computer doesn't like that because now h4 will come. And now you've secured this knight on this nice square, and perhaps they'll play h6. But now you can actually play bishop d3. You don't have to move the knight.
Yeah, that's nice. So with this loose king side and that pawn on g6.
So if you want to grab the knight and be really greedy, which I'm sure at this level we wouldn't be doing, you'll snap that pawn off with the bishop and get your queen to h5. Oh no, no, the other pawn. Bishop takes g6, not g5.
There we go. Yes.
So and then it's
queen
not going to be
to follow and queen h7 mate.
Yes, assuming they left the rook on f8, but they probably won't do that. But that'll give you, I don't know, +7 or something on the computer. So you'd be feeling pretty good having given up your knight. And if you look at all of black's pieces, 2 knights and a bishop and a rook stuck over in that little enclave in the top left of the screen, not really playing with a lot of defense on the king side, and we've got our rook coming into the game on h1 and so on. So, but that did not happen. No. But it could have done. So she went h4 first. I mean, she could play the knight there afterwards. But if we go back to the game and see how it's progressed.
Yeah. So h4, and then Camilla rerouted her knight back to f6 to defend.
Yes.
So trying to discourage h5.
Yeah.
However, Lanyao was not discouraged.
She was not.
She just kept straight on.
Ploughing on it. There's often these setups where you're quite happy to sacrifice the rook for the knight. Whether that works here is another matter. But often, if knight takes pawn, you're happy to give the rook up for a minor piece so early on in the game and launch some all-out attack. So she could actually take it and defend, but she chooses to play a slightly surprising move, perhaps c5, but.
Yeah, I suppose she's going with the old kind of adage of an attack on the wing.
Yeah, open up the middle.
Opening up the middle. So she's kind of attacking back in the middle.
Yep.
However, the king side attack is quite strong for white here.
Well, it's rather inviting. H takes g6.
Hg6.
And,
Hg6.
And so now, we're only 12 moves in, and that. There's a kind of breeze blowing around the black king, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very direct game, isn't it, by both players? Just especially Lanyao actually going straight for the king, giving up that pawn there in the opening, and
So white hasn't castled, but isn't worried about that. It's not as if the e file is going to be blasted open anytime soon. But you can also see what we were talking about at the start. The idea of the Tigers Modern is we would have played bishop c8 to b7, and black just hasn't had time to do that.
Yeah.
So the development's quite slow, and as black we've got 2 minor pieces still stuck on the back rank. All of white's pieces are out, and white's king is obviously rather safer than black's at the moment.
Yeah. Although I can't, it's not like mate yet, is it? So
it's not coming in the next 2 moves.
I wonder
Certainly
how
not.
white is going to develop this attack. I mean, I suppose you can attack more, like something like like queen d3 or bishop d3 to kind of attack further that pawn on g6, or maybe put in a knight onto g5, because you can't. It's hard for black to force that away ever, because
Hmm.
neither the f pawn or the h pawn are still there. So once you get a piece onto g5, it's hard to dislodge it.
Yes, it'd be nicely positioned to kind of base your attack around, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And it often
And of
takes
course,
time for
white hasn't
knights to get
castled
up
yet.
the
White
board.
can still
Yeah.
choose. Can keep this attack and maybe even choose queenside if she wants to at a later time.
Yes, we could get our bishops to h6, trade some stuff off, double the rooks after castling,
Yeah.
and that must be relatively, sorts of plans that play themselves after a while.
Yeah, you're absolutely right though. Trading that bishop, because black's really got, like these three pawns in the middle there. They're kind of a bit of a wall across the middle of the board, and as you
Mm-hmm.
say, the queenside pieces of black are a little bit stuck on the queen side.
Mm.
So for white to trade off those kind of two defensive kingside pieces and then still have another three, attacking pieces, that's probably the way to do it.
Yes, and we've kind of got enough time at the moment. There isn't, we're not about to be pelted down the middle with, rooks pointing at our king on the e file or anything. So
Yeah.
we're well positioned as white at the moment, but still some work to do, I think it's fair to say.
Okie doke. All right, let's see another game.
Should we
Should
just
we have a look at?
Yeah, I just wondered if we should look at the game that finished earlier, as
Okay,
the
yeah.
players
So
are
we've got
playing in 4 NCL. So
fine. Yeah, Zoe Varney and Katarzyna Toma. They're both playing for NCL this weekend, so they already played their game earlier. So let's have a look at how that one went. We can see the result already, but that result doesn't tell the full story of the game.
it certainly doesn't. And
Okay.
quite an up and down game it was.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
all right. So here we go.
So Zoe was white, and we get a Sicilian defense. And
So
both players playing kind of mainline stuff.
yep. And E5 tells us it's the Sveshnikov. And the modern move is you play the knight to B5. Knight F5 isn't really played now, and
Yeah.
black meets that with D5. Pawn takes, and then bishop takes knight, and so on.
Okay.
So yeah, the knight goes out to B5, and you can see they're not taking a long time on these moves either.
Yeah, just 30 seconds each one. Oh, actually,
Yeah.
it's showing everything. Maybe these aren't actually the move times, because everything's 30 seconds.
On your one, yes.
In mine, is yours?
Looking at
Is
it.
yours?
I was looking at it earlier.
Okay.
No, it's showing is No, I looked at it earlier and it was showing the times, and these bits were played quite quickly. To be fair. So anyway, let's move on. So it's all good mainline stuff at the moment.
Yeah. So knight takes, pawn takes.
Yeah.
Knight e7. And Zoe plays c4.
Yep. So bolstering the D pawn and taking some space in the middle, and out comes the knight to kind of unravel a bit of black's cramped position.
Yeah. And Zoe bishop d3, bishop e7, and both sides take the opportunity to castle. Now, I know Zoe always is quite an attacking player. She does like to aim at the king, and we'll see her now playing f4.
Yeah,
I think
so
Danny's been telling her to kind of pace herself on the attacks sometimes. Queen b6 check.
Yes, and this is leading to queen comes out, checking the king, and black can be dreaming of some smothered mate attack via a knight on f2 or something later on, but that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, takes, and Zoe comes in with f5.
So yes, which isn't the isn't the favoured move, but is pushing things up the board and moving things
Do we
along.
know what would be better here? Is it
What?
like rook f3 and rook
I
across?
was looking at this earlier, and
Yeah.
it likes either f takes e,
Okay.
or
Okay, and then leaves. Oh gosh, f takes e, and if you take back with the pawn, this d pawn is huge.
yes,
And
or
if
you
you
can
take back
play
with the queen, you've maybe just got like rook e1 or something.
yeah,
Queen
and
h5, that kind of thing.
yes, or the alternative move for now is queen c2, which is
Okay.
hitting the h6 pawn, connecting the rooks, so we could play rook a e1.
Yeah.
But just
I
developing
can
the
put this on
queen.
the board. So rook
Yes,
c2,
so queen c2, and that she could play g6 or e6.
g6,
Yeah, let's
and
say,
then rook
and then
e1.
or f takes e perhaps first,
Yeah.
and White's feeling confident enough about what's going on.
Oh yeah, because now
That's
you
going to
can
be
do rook
awkward,
e1, and then
and
this bishop. So you have to go bishop queen
so we're
g5 maybe.
getting a bit uncomfortable, isn't it now?
Yeah.
And a lot of our heavy artillery is now pointing at the king, and you can see there's a rook on a8, not doing anything. Bishop on c8 hasn't come out yet, so the rooks aren't connected.
Yeah.
And
No, it does look very good for white.
perhaps we've got some rook lifts coming or something good.
Yeah.
And White's king is, pretty happy
Yeah.
on h1. But we didn't get that. We got f5, which I think is an
Yeah, so they
understandable
played
move to
f5.
keep things going up the board, but not the most direct route. However, she does reach a more favourable position in any case.
Yeah.
So we move
So
on.
now we see a rook lift. Rook f3.
Yeah.
Queen h6 and rook h3. There we go. Queen g5. And now queen c2. g6. And we've got rook e3. Sorry, rook g3. And so Zoe puts her rook on the g file. And that then means this f pawn is not now pinned by the sort of bishop lining up against it.
Yeah.
Queen h5.
So we get a bit more.
Okay, and Zoe repeats. So Zoe repeats, and actually Kata, the higher rated player, she deviates to avoid a repetition at this point.
Yeah.
Knight c3, king h8, rook f1, rook c8, b3, and then queen h4.
So, and then you saw what happened to the eval bar there.
Yeah.
So other moves available were b5, e4, or move a rook, but the queen's moving away from the king, and we can tempo that again with rook h3 and continue our attack.
Queen d4.
So now we've lined up our rook on the h file, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of first step to getting some kind of devastating attack against the castle king.
Yeah.
And the queen is no longer. I mean, not that the queen is always the best defender of things, but it's somewhat removed from where the king was, if you like. So if we were trying to get our queen to h6, if black's queen had gone to g7, well, we just trade the queens off, right?
Yeah.
But our queen's gone walkabout in the middle as black on this d4 square, and you can see we can start to line something up on the h file.
Yeah.
But we need to
so
get
Kata's defending with rook g8, and which I guess is necessary because queen h6 was threatened, just to threaten queen h7 mate. So this rook g8 is to allow it to come to g7 to defend. So Zoe could play like something like queen h6 now.
She could, but she hasn't quite got enough ammo to see this through, if you like.
Yeah.
It's not bad, and black's defending and so on. But she needs to just bring a bit more to the table. But
Yeah.
I have to say, rook h7 looks.
So
Rook takes h7
maybe
checked
things like
is
bringing the
tempting.
knight in, just like knight to e4, and then that threatens f6,
Yeah,
perhaps.
or if we went knight e2, we could tempo the queen.
Oh yeah. That looks good.
So that might be playable. There's some. I think that's the one the computer likes the most.
Okay.
I mean, the other thing is we might want to knock the queen off this diagonal because it could find its way
Yeah.
back to g7,
Yeah.
or just protecting the king if she can move the e pawn. But
Mm.
we may have some options of bringing our knight round at some point. So if we can do that and tempo the queen, then that's not a bad thing.
Mm.
So black now puts the queen somewhere, and then we can play queen h6, and
So say queen c5.
let's say, and then we can play queen
Yeah.
h6,
Queen
rook
h6.
g7, and then we've got f6.
Yeah, if we can get this f6 in like this for white, this is really good. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, because now black doesn't have time for bishop takes h3, just because then queen g7's mate. So you have to deal with that point. Well, actually, it's just, isn't it? So bishop, it has to be bishop takes f6, right?
Yes, and we can take that.
You can just take it, and you end up with the two
yes. Well,
bishops. Is that
you may need to be careful there because of this bishop.
bishop h3?
Yes.
Yeah, because the queen's defending that rook on c8, isn't it?
So that line may have gone slightly differently.
Yeah, but I suppose even if white does get the two bishops, the rook and pawn, that's got to be. I think that would be good for white, wouldn't you?
You would think.
Takes. Just play queen takes. There's no. I can't see a trick. Just play queen takes, and this is just good for white, right? Computer
Yes.
likes.
Yeah, we've got the two pieces, 2 bits against the rook.
Yeah.
Decent pawn structure.
Yeah.
And the game goes on. Perhaps
Yeah.
we can infiltrate with the queen on d7 at some point. That might be fun.
Yeah. Threatening the pawn on d6 and also the pawn on f7.
Just got to be careful about the black queen hassling our king a bit, but it's looking promising.
Yeah. Okay, so that was what this is what Zoe could have done.
So some of those lines might be it's just a slightly slower way to play, but she's played rook takes h7. Now you see a lot of kind of puzzle books where that's often the first move in these kind of mating attacks. So it's quite a natural move to play, I must say.
Yeah.
But as you can see, the computer just thinks, well, I can defend this all day long.
Yeah.
And
so it doesn't work.
It's not going to be quite enough, which is a shame because she's got the position she needed.
Yeah. So what was she aiming for? Here, rook f7, presumably.
Yep.
Rook
Which
f7,
was all played.
Rook g7.
Yeah.
Oh, is she aiming for bishop g?
Well, she could take it, but the king can just grab that. I think we may have lost Natasha there for a moment. Oh. So I think Natasha's just had a bit of a problem with her connection. Hopefully she'll be back in a moment. And we were looking at Zoe's game with Katarzyna, and we were seeing that the attack on the king was not quite going to make it. I'll share my screen in a moment. We can get back to that. So we can get back to that position. You're back.
Hi, sorry, I've been chatting away. I don't know quite how long. So, okay, fine. We're going back to Camilla against Lan Yao, which has now finished. We were here. We saw C5, HG, HG, DC5. It's saying it's finished. It's saying 1-0.
Let me just see if that's what I'm seeing.
See if that's what you... Yeah, let me just... I'll see if it's not what you're seeing. I'm going to refresh the page. I won't do it unless it is. It's not, because...
I'm seeing it as 1-0.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, what we'll do, we'll come back to that. It's possible it is. But let's look at the other games in the meantime. I mean, White has won this pawn, right? And it is a kind of very tricky position, but whether she's resigned or not, yeah. Okay. Let's see Harriet against Ketty. Okay. So I think we've got another Sicilian here. So both of these, so very experienced, very strong players. So we've got International Master Harriet Hunt against Grandmaster Ketty Arakamir Grant. And I'll just point out, because we sometimes do get this question, it isn't Women's International Master, it is International Master, and it isn't Woman Grandmaster, it is actually Grandmaster Ketty. And so E4, C5, Knight F3, and Ketty plays slightly unusual move here, A6. So this could transpose into some kind of Najdorf Sicilian. Harriet had a bit of a think here and actually played what I think is quite an interesting move. She played C4.
Yeah, so this 2A6 line, I'm sure everyone has Andrew Martin's new book, Play the O'Kelly Sicilian. The kind of last unexplored line of Sicilian theory. And
do you think Ketty has played it based on Andrew's book?
Oh, she may well have been playing it well before the book came out. Yes. The opening's been around for a while, but it's one of those things that gets popular, and it's a very digestible tome. I do recommend it. But,
okay.
She's met it with C4. Yes, that's interesting. So giving up the D4 square, but taking some space as well.
So Knight C6, D4, takes, E5, Knight C2, C5, and Knight C3. It's quite nice having this pawn structure for White with the C4 and the E4, and just sort of puts Black in a bind that Black can't play the freeing move D5.
Yes, we saw versions of this in the World Rapid Play where Abdu Sattarov, who won it as the surprise winner, if you like, got these two pawns in a lot of his White games, and did extremely well with it. Often starting with C4, in fact.
Yeah. Okay, Knight G7, Bishop D3, and castle, and D6. Rook B1. So Harriet wants to try and get in like A3, B4, and then potentially even C5 at some point. Bishop E6, A3, Rook C8, Knight E3, So still clamping down on d5. Knight d4. And that's as far as we are in this game.
Yep, so nice and nicely balanced.
Yeah, what do you think? I mean, I wonder if Harriet will go ahead and play b4 next. I'm going to put it on the board and see what happens. b4.
So we'll Black will drop the bishop back somewhere.
Yeah.
A7 or B6.
Something like that.
Ace.
These are just our moves. Yeah.
And then we could play A4. We want to continue.
Yeah.
And Black will be thinking about, can I get F5 in? As we've got 4 pieces supporting a pawn break.
Do you think she might try it right away?
Yeah.
F5, yeah. Yeah, so this is the kind of thing we might see on this game.
And that will start to open things up. And I think that's going to make for quite an exciting game.
Yes. Okay. Let's put it back to where. So this is the actual live position there. Okay. And then let's see. We should say so. Actually, Lan Yao 5.5. Now she, having won that game, we should say if that's even indeed true, then she will go to 6.5 points, and that actually will give her the Women's Grandmaster title. So fantastic result there. And as we say, Camilla already has the WIM norm. She needed 4.5 for that. She's already exceeded that. She's got 5. Okay, let's have a look at this next game. So Vidic against Schulze. Now Vidic, she hasn't scored yet. She will be looking to get off the mark. Matt, have you ever played a tournament where you didn't get any points? And in that situation, what do you do? How do you deal with that?
I don't recall never getting any points. But it can happen, and you kind of just have to keep plugging away, and you've got to come back every day. I think sometimes if you're in your rut, you may just need to shake things up a bit and try a different opening. Even if you don't know it very well. It wasn't a tournament, but I went through a period of months where I was just losing almost every club game I was playing. Yeah. And eventually I just decided I have to play something else. Yeah. And so I just started playing, let's call it something else that wasn't my regular lines. Yeah. And that just seemed to do the trick.
Yeah. I've had it twice. I've had both times. I didn't get 0. Both of the times I got half a point out of 9 games. Ooh. And in both the times I lost 7 in a row, drew in round 8 and then lost round 9. I mean, the thing about that was because I was like one of the top girl players, I was getting invitations to events where I was going to be like the weakest player, and it was like so like it wasn't particularly a crazy result, but it's hard to deal with, if you lose quite a lot in a row. But one of them was it was a lovely tournament, actually. The Oakham Young Masters, must be 1990. And so there was like Anand and Spidler and all these people were playing in this tournament, and I was playing, which was really nice. But I just remember this was round 8, and I was playing against this woman player, who was still like 100, 200 points higher than me. But I managed to get it, so I'd won this exchange. And so, finally I had a good position. Arthur Kogan had played and lost him, all these people. So anyway, so I got to this position and exchange. I'd won the exchange, and I just offered the girl a draw. And then Anand comes up to me like, what are you offering a draw for? You're like the exchange up. There's nothing happening in this position. I said to him, I've got no points at all. Yeah. He just said, I understand. It was really sweet. Really
excellent.
Sweet. Yeah.
It was
And,
on. It
and
was on
Dave
your
Nor wanted
side.
to cheer me up. He said Rome wasn't like I was on Naught outside. Rome wasn't
Mm.
built in a day. He said, yeah,
Yes, we never lose when we learn.
yes, exactly. Right. So
Though
anyway, so
sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Anyway, yes.
we've probably gone on way
So
too long for poor old Vidic, who doesn't have any points, but
no.
is aiming for points. But there we go. It can be very tough. So
Mm.
takes because the thing is also right in the just I'll just say one more thing about it. The thing is in these all play all tournaments, once you've started losing, they all want
Mm.
to. They're going for it.
Yes,
They'll all
targeting
play
you.
it. They're not going to give you
Yeah.
the draw, even if you're a similar strength.
Mm.
They're gonna go all out and try and beat you. So knight f6, knight c3, d6,
So we're
bishop
getting
g5.
this Scheveningen sort of setup with the little centre pawns on d6 and e6 here.
Yeah. God, I used to
There we go.
play this. I used to play this in my teens. Actually, some of this
Mm.
stuff for black. A6, castle's long, bishop d7. Thing is, this kind of opening you can win quickly or lose quickly, can't you? And it can get quite f4, bishop e7, knight f3, b5, and so we should see opposite side castling in this game. Should be very
Mm.
exciting. So bishop takes and g takes f6, f5, and black does now castle.
So that
e4.
G takes f6 is interesting, given that it was going to be castle's kingside.
Yeah, yeah. She's not worried. I mean, she's kind of thinking, well, actually, those pawns are sort of reasonably solid like
Mm.
that. Yeah. So we'll see. We will see. We'll see a rook g1, and we'll see her white aiming for g5. I'm sure.
Mm.
So Lara gets her king out of the way. Knight e2, queen a5. Okay, so offering the trade of queens, which actually is taken. So queens come off.
Well, yes, if
Okay.
you've got the slightly more exposed king, trade the queens off, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
White's decided that that's okay, which perhaps you would keep the queens on, but the queen's also
Yeah.
threatening to take a2 is the problem.
Yeah. I
So
also think because black has the bishop pair, that black's quite happy to go into an endgame here.
yes,
Yeah.
so queen a5 looked to be perhaps like a smart decision for black there.
Knight f4 and rook g8, making use of that open file herself. Rook g1, knight c6, and h3. So rook a e8. That's interesting. I don't think I'd have necessarily thought of putting my rook on. I don't think I'd have necessarily gone for the e file. I wonder
Okay.
if she's actually going to. I can't imagine her playing e takes f5 because then she's got like 3 isolated pawns.
Yes, it's not clear that the e-file's coming open anytime soon, or that pawn is going to need too much protection. Rook a b8 would be another option.
Maybe she's going to want to. I don't know if she's going to relocate her bishop at any point. So king b1, and knight e5
Okay.
from Lara, and knight d4, and she's relocating this bishop. Bishop d8, and that's
Okay. So she's anticipated this, 3 things attacking e6 with rook a8, but now the rooks are, both kind of stuck on the king side just for now.
Yeah. Okay. So as white, then how might white going to attempt to soften up the queen side then, perhaps with a move like a4? I wonder. And so that if it takes, then you've got bishop a6.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, given that black's rooks are kind of on the king side there. Maybe.
Or Should we be trying to double the rooks on the G file? And
I see. Oh, yeah, like rook g3 or something, and then you can actually swing it round to the a file if you want to as well.
well, rook d3 at the moment would be rook g3. Excuse me. Yes. Perhaps we want to put some pressure over on the king side. The thing is, the bishops can never really help the king. So perhaps we can create some pressure with enough pieces there.
Yeah,
Certainly
I can't
outnumber
see
black's
it. I can't
defenders.
see like any. I can't. I could be wrong, but I can't see the king getting in danger.
Not yet. No.
Yeah. Okay, we will see.
Perhaps there's something we can do on the d file as white. I don't know. Might be interesting as well.
So again, to open up the d file.
Yeah, perhaps there's something we can do on the d file. We could put 2 rooks on the d file if we wanted. And,
okay. So like rook g2, rook d2.
Yeah. I think black's just got to defend it with a bishop for a while, haven't they?
Yeah.
But there's some more manoeuvring to be done there, I
think. Yeah. Okay. And let's see this other game, which is again the other tournament leader, Polish IM, Joanna Tworkowska. And so this one, okay, a d4 opening. So Anne-Marie Kubova, knight f6, and we're getting a King's Indian.
Bit of King's Indian action with the good old 3 pawns in the middle. Lovely.
And this is the Averbach opening, h6. Okay, and white's again going quite directly for an attack against the black king. c5, d5. Okay, and black goes for b5. Now this is a pawn sacrifice. So white can just take this pawn, and she does. And so I was thinking black might follow up immediately with a6 with some kind of Benko-like play.
Yeah.
Now what she did was knight e5. Maybe she's looking for
can you get c4 in there? Yes.
Yeah. f3 and a6. Okay, so she does do this.
Likes your idea.
And then white actually says, well, actually, I'm going to do my plan, and plays h5. And black just closes it up actually with g5. Yeah. Okay.
So white's going to be thinking about, can I get f4 in, I guess, at some point? Or
yeah.
Because we're kind of committed to trying to bash open the king side here, aren't we?
Do you think white will ever sacrifice?
Well, could do 2 pieces for a pawn, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we've got to line some more stuff up first, though. We've got quite. No,
yeah, you'd want if you're doing that stuff, you'd want to be able to get h6 in, and which you can.
Yeah.
Which you can.
Yeah. Do we want our other rook on g1 before we start doing this sort of thing?
I think yeah. You need a bit better.
And bit more. Where should our f and g pawns be before we launch?
Yeah. Okay. So AB and knight takes b5. And that is where they are up to.
So, yes, so she has kind of achieved that Benko-like structure that you were referring to there, Natasha. So I guess white is thinking, not sure I'm going to be castling queenside anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't go for castle queenside because there's already like just rook a2 straight away.
Yes, apart from anything else. Often in these things you can hide your king on f2, for example.
That might be a better way of doing it, isn't it? Yeah, just
Yeah,
king tucked it in on f2 and
yeah. You can often do that, or even king f1 sometimes is good. In them, she hasn't played it here, but the Makaganov version where you've got h3 and g4 as your
yeah.
first pawn advances, and where do you put your king is often one of the questions you have to resolve.
Because actually, White's a pawn could become, if
Well,
you get to an
yes,
angle, this a pawn is going to be
yeah. So
huge.
sometimes this is an asset, isn't it? Sometimes it's a bit of a curse, but sometimes it's quite an asset. But Black's pawn on c5 can become quite a thing later on if Black's able to get some play against the A and B pawns.
Yeah. Okie doke. All right. So let's go back. Shall we go back to Harriet's game
I think
and
we should. Should
Ketty?
we just mention the tournament sponsors
We should indeed.
while we
That's
do that?
a good call.
So this will be
So this tournament is it's an absolutely fantastic tournament to give English and other women players an opportunity at getting norms, and indeed, as we've seen, there's already looks like 2 norms achieved. So Kamila Hristrenko, who comes from Ukraine, and she's done fantastically well, got her WIM norm. She's exceeded the score you need already for that. And also Lanyao, who has switched to England maybe a year ago or so, was originally Chinese, and she's a very, very strong player, and she has got her WGM title from this tournament. So that's absolutely awesome, assuming that result is right there. So some great results. And so the sponsors of this event, we've got a few sponsors for this event, but Caplin, Caplin Systems and John Ashworth, a great ambassador for English women's chess, done so much to give the players all these opportunities. We've got the Chess Trust, we've got FIDE Women's and Friends of Chess have all sponsored the event to make it possible for these players to play. Okay, now where do... Say again, Matt?
That's very grateful to all of them for getting involved and supporting chess. That's wonderful. So thanks very much to all of them.
Yes. Okay. So now we were at 94, weren't we?
We were, and we were speculating about. So you can see a little variation still on your screen there with B4 and so on.
Yes. Harriet, of course, chose a completely different way of doing it, and she has gone knight into d5.
Okay. Well, that's a very nice square for the knight with the 2 pawns protecting it, and obviously Black can't kick that knight away with any pawns.
Yeah.
So nicely placed, and
now I'm wondering if Harriet's going to go. I mean, Harriet obviously she likes a kingside attack. I wonder if she's going to go f4, and she'd have to get a king out of the way first, of course, wouldn't she? Because otherwise she's lining herself up. But so like king h1 wise. And f4 and that kind of thing. I wonder whether that's what she wants to do.
That could be nice. And we'd mentioned earlier whether Black can get in f5, though perhaps not right away.
Let's see if she does try f5 right away.
We should see,
that would be absolutely terrible.
It's not a popular move
you can do
at the moment. It's a move. It's a thing for later potentially. Is bishop g5 might be annoying at that stage with our knight, Black's knight. Being a bit unhappy. But it's something to have in our back pocket for a bit later on.
Yeah. So actually, Harriet's move knight e5 prevented f5.
Amongst other things, yes. So Black's got to decide what to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And, well, we could snap it off with our knight. That would get rid of the pin. And now we could play f5 if we so desired.
So maybe knight takes.
Yeah,
And then
and
f5.
then we've got our pawn break in, and we want to be doing something on the king side as black, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And quite a balanced game here between Harriet and Betty.
Yes. I mean, white can now play b4 if they want. Tempo the bishop, get some more space, and we're playing on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I think she's played 8 games, I think. So she played, oh, no, 7. She's played only 7. Because I think she's not playing tomorrow. Maybe she'll play, anyway, I don't know exactly the schedule, but yes, I think she's going to be doing some streaming tomorrow, so that'll be a treat. Okay, so let's see. We'll pop back into the other 2 games, and then we will finish. We'll wind up. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. So where did we get up to? We had so they'd swapped queens. Okay, we had this, didn't we? Rook A8. We had King B1, Knight E5 here. Knight H5. Okay, so we were talking about perhaps swinging some rooks around either to the queen side or to the d file. Taya's put her knight in on h5 and is, I guess, looking at that f6 or keeping that bishop tied down to the f6 pawn.
Yes, and perhaps this is the start of some king side offensive as well.
Yes.
So, and the point we were making is this clump of pawns in the middle can, depending on the position, can be quite nice, but here it's kind of stopping the bishops, helping the defense of the king.
Yeah.
As neither can really get round quickly. I mean, the dark squared bishop could get to f8, but slowly. But then you're giving up the f6 pawn. So can white gradually build up more pressure now on the king side on the h and g files? Is there some pawn break on g5 coming? I mean, not yet, obviously, but can we bring everything into play to make that possible? And what can our other knight do?
Yeah.
Perhaps, is it a bit more dangerous on f4 than d4, for example?
Yeah. Okay. So this one can come round into f4. Yeah.
Yeah. But getting that pawn break in slightly tricky because black does have 3 on g5. But then we could get the pawn to f6.
Yeah.
And as we know, a pawn on f6 is a good thing to have.
That is, that can be scary. Okay, fine. And so actually we've got one more move. Black dropped the bishop back to c8.
So perhaps it's going to come to b7 and hassle our e-pawn for a minute.
Yeah.
Slightly annoying.
Yeah.
Quite sure how we're going to defend that. I'm going to slow with rook e1, bishop g2.
She's gone rook g3.
Okay, so this was one of your suggestions to
to swing it round to the queen side.
It's giving us lots of options, isn't it? Because perhaps we could get our other rook to g1 if we're trying to play on the king side. Or we could swing this over somewhere D, C, or A files, depending what's going on.
Yeah.
So quite flexible, if you like.
Yeah. And so if bishop b7, we can.
So now we could play bishop g2, and it hasn't got in the way of our rook doing things we wanted it to do. Want a better phrase.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And let's see the last game. All right. And so we saw knight takes b5. So just one more move in this game. So knight fd7 from Joanna. And so this one looks like white's going to want to attack.
She's trying to play f5?
She maybe is. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, typical King's Indian move, isn't it? But,
yeah. Because white, as we said, white. It's not clear exactly where white's going to put the king. I mean, white could still castle kingside, of course.
Yes. Because it, is the rook on h1 doing very much at the moment? It's a question we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
And well, we're not breaking through on the H file anytime soon. Let's put it that way. So unless we're going to do this piece sack on G5.
Yeah.
Which we're just not ready for that yet, I don't think, are we? We haven't got enough material in the right places.
Well, let's see. I'm just going to put it on the board. I think we're not doing this stuff, but if we put it on. No. See, the computer's not very excited. Oh, no, the computer's very unexcited. Just can't do it. Takes. Pawn takes.
Can we play bishop?
And you're just giving away a piece, basically.
Yes. Yeah, so we're going to move our king somewhere. I don't know if we can then pin the knight to the queen or something. If we get time to do that. No, you're not going to let me do that. Okay.
Still, yeah. So that's not a thing. It's not a thing.
Yeah, you can't checkmate me.
No. It didn't look like a thing, but I thought I'd just try it.
We were discussing whether is the rest of our stuff in the right places, and it isn't. So you've got to line the stuff up first, and then do it. But yes, perhaps f5 is coming as a way for black to say, well, if you're going to leave your king in the middle, then we need to open some things up. And actually, my king isn't in as much danger as perhaps we all thought it was. So that could develop into something quite interesting, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're going to leave it here. Thanks, everybody, very much for watching. Thanks again to the sponsors. And also, a big shout out, of course, to Aga and the team who have been organising this lovely event. There have been, at least 3 that I can remember, women's norm tournaments in recent months, and maybe even more. And so it's been lots of activity in women's chess recently, which is really great to see. So yeah, thanks to Aga for all her hard work on that, and to all the team. We'll, I think, probably Harriet and I will be commentating tomorrow, but that's we've got to confirm. But thanks everyone very much for watching. Oh, thanks Ocelot. Hi Ocelot. Thanks Matt for commentating too.
My pleasure.
Okay, and thanks everyone for watching.
Okay.